Some people were wondering about what my grading system was. I thought I would just make a quick video for you so you can always refer back to it if you have any questions. Um, but first, I want to talk about why I have this grading system and how I came up with it. One of the things I want to point out, guys, is I'm trying to uh, grade you in AP history. My goal, my main objective, is that your grade is demonstrative of your predicted score on the exam at any given time. And so what that means is like you can look in the grade book and you'd be like, hey, look, I got a C. I'm likely on track to get a 3 on the exam. Or I got an A. I'm likely on track to get a 5 on the exam. And so I want that grade to always be as reflective as possible. And so I've worked on this system over time to get there. Now, this won't work in every AP course. It took years of me refining it as well. Like I've tried a number of different things throughout the years and some of the weighting and all of that. I do make my decisions though based on the course and exam description, right? The CED. So I've taken the information from the CED. I've taken historical data and the College Board's bell curve information, and how they've graded the test in the past and curved the test in the past. And then I've also asked like what other teachers are doing around the world, right? And so I've taken all of that, and through trial and error, I've come up with this system. That being said, historically, it's been pretty accurate at any given time. And most students actually agree that it's actually a really fair system. It's not punishing, it's generous, but you do have to do the work in order for it to work. And again, I attempt to mimic the exam as much as possible. And that even means like as weighting goes, but it also means with the amount of time per question. All elements, I attempt to mimic the exam as much as possible. So going to the CED, where I started from. So if we look at the CED, we have MCQ right here, worth 40%. Then we have the FRQ, which is 20% of the SAQ, short answer questions. The document-based questions, 25%, and the long essay question is 15%. So we add all that up, that's 60%. And so I do break down my weighting in the grade book by 40 and 60%. I do keep all of the SAQs, or all the essays, or free response questions, FRQs, all in one category. I've tried it in the past to break it up, and then basically some get more weighted than other because I do certain types more often. And so just to avoid any of that, I've just have all the FRQs in one category. Now, here's how my grade book is going to look specifically. Like I said, I base it off the College Board weighting, but I add another element to it. And I'll jump down to these first. I have the historical thinking skill category, which is worth 10%. And the historical thinking skill is basically anything directly related to the standards or learning objectives found in the CED, right? So anytime that you're doing something related to it outside of an actual written test, we're seeing this 10% here. Now I do have a formative category in here, as you can see right there. It's 0% of your actual grade. So the formative is just all of the other activities and homeworks that I might assign. Those are worth 0%. When you demonstrate the skills, or the learning objectives, that's 10%. But then each test is broken down. Your multiple choice test will be 36%, and your FRQ will be worth 54%, right? And that's directly correlation to the 40-60 from the actual exam. Which also means each test will have 2 grades in the grade book. You'll have one for the MCQ, one for the FRQ. And when you take the test in the class, I will give you the same amount of time you would normally have. For instance, if the MCQ is 20 questions, you would have 1 minute per question according to the CED, and so you'll have 20 minutes to take that test. And so again, I try to match the CED as much as possible. So then let's talk about MCQ quote-unquote curving. There are a lot of different types of curves out there, and there's a lot of words that people use to say curve, but they mean different things. The College Board curves, right? They use a bell curve. It's a tricky word, but what I really want to address is that all grade adjustments are based on individual performance. You earn it. So I do not use a bell curve. I don't have any automatic curve. It's not like, hey, everybody missed 5, so everybody's gonna get 5 extra points. No, I don't do anything like that. It's all based purely on individual performance. But I do try my best to match what the actual bell curve looks like. So my goal is to make sure your grades match the predicted score on AP exam. So I try to get as close as possible to that. But I also believe in earning every point you get even if it does end up being generous. And essentially the College Board says like, hey, you can miss 20% of the questions. You get 80% correct and you can still be on track for a 5. So in that regards, I actually give a 20% extra questions. So for example, I will give you a 24 question test and it will be out of 20, meaning you can miss 4 and still get 100%, right? You cannot earn more than 20 points though. If you do, I'll put a comment in the grade book where you can see like, oh yeah, you got a 22, but the most you can actually get is 20 points. And that's all of the curving I do. You get these extra questions. You do earn every point, but you can miss 4 and still even get full marks, all right? Now, what I do for FRQ is a little bit different. In the FRQ, all FRQs are in the grade book out of 100, right? So the MCQ is going to be the point value of the actual test. Like if I give you an 18 question MCQ test, it'll be out of 15 points, right? But the FRQs are all out of 100, and your raw score is entered after the exam. So, for example, if you have a 3-point essay, like I give you one SAQ, and there's 3 points to it, you miss 1, I'm going to put in 67. Or if you miss 6, if you have a 6-point essay and you miss 1, I'm putting in an 83, right? A 5 out of 6 is an 83. Now, at a glance, right, that's a D or a B minus. And don't worry, though. There are corrections. Don't panic about it. I'm going to explain those corrections in a second. But that being said, I actually still think this is reflective, right? If all things remain the same, if you don't change anything, you don't do corrections, and you don't change at all, then yeah, you know what, that 67, I think tracks. Like it shows that you're still on track to get a 3 or a 2 on the exam. But if you come in and do corrections and do the work, right, that's going to have a huge improvement. So if you do corrections, you get half the points back, and I apply something known as the square root curve, and I'll show you that in a second. And the square root curve is surprisingly close to the AP bell curve for AP history. So it is actually surprisingly close. I will say you do need to schedule time to have them done in my classroom. I'm not allowed to let the test leave for test security, right? College Board rules. So you do have to come schedule time in my classroom to sit and do the corrections. And I'm going to talk about what those corrections look like in a second as well. But let's look at the curve. Now, I have this spreadsheet. You can find it on Schoology on the LMS, and you can use this spreadsheet and like make a copy of it and play around with it if you like. But one thing I want to point out is, let's say we do an SAQ and it's worth 3 points, and you miss 1, right? That's going to show up as a 67 in the grade book, right? So that's a D. But again, don't panic. You're going to come in, you're going to do the corrections. You're going to get half the credit back. So you get a 2.5, right, which puts it up to an 83. And then I apply the bell curve, which is a 91, right, which makes it an A minus. And that's much more reflective. And again, here we look here at if it's a 6-point essay and you miss 1, it puts you at an 83, do the corrections, a 96. So you can miss 1 on a 6-point essay, either the LAQ or 2 SAQ, and you will still get a solid A in there. So it is pretty generous, but it requires you to come in and do corrections. So let me talk about corrections a little bit. Let me first clarify by saying they are not a retake, right? You are not getting a brand new test. You're not doing a retake in any way. You're not sitting down. It's not timed. You have as much time and as many shots as you require, and you're not just rewriting your answer, right? There is a little bit more to it. You'll come and you'll take one of these forms. You'll identify what you did wrong. You'll rewrite your answer paraphrased. You'll say why it was wrong. You'll also identify and write out the key concept that is related to. And then on the back, you're going to rewrite your answer. And again, you can come to me and I'll tell you, oh, that's wrong or right, and you need to adjust this. And you can keep doing it until you get it right. It's really that important that you learn how to answer the questions correctly and you actually learn from your mistakes, right? And so you're going to do this for each point that you've missed, right? So if you've missed 3 SAQs, then you got to come and you got to do this thing 3 times, right? So all 3 parts of the SAQ. So here's the thing with the corrections. It's essential, and that is why it's so generous. You know the saying, trust the process. You have to learn from your mistakes for my system to work. Again, my goal is to be reflective of what I think your predicted grade is going to be, but you have to do the system for it to actually be purely reflective, but also you will learn so much from your mistakes if you do so. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any further questions, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.